He is already with somebody else. Did he even love me? Hello and welcome to Love Advice TV. If this is your first time visiting the channel, then welcome. Make sure you hit the subscribe button so you can join the community. And if you've already been part of the community, then welcome back. My name is Danny and I'm one of the head coaches here at the With My Ex Again project and the Happily Committed project. And obviously the channel that we are on right now, which is Love Advice TV. So this is a bit of a tricky subject, right? Topic. And it's something that I have been asked multiple times before in my client sessions. And it's not just about an ex moving on or a rebound situation. It's more so along the lines of feeling as if your ex did not care or did not love you because they have moved on so quickly and you are still in a state of despair. You're still in limbo. You still feel stuck. You still want the relationship, but it feels as if they do not want it, they do not care, and they've already moved on from the situation. So what do you do? What are you left to think? How are you supposed to think or how are you supposed to feel, right? And there's a couple of things that I want to discuss, right, to kind of help you gain a different perspective on the situation. And one of them is really understanding how most men cope with a breakup. And there was a study by an Austrian psychologist named Ursula. Technically, I think her name is Athenstad, but I probably slaughtered that. I apologize. However, the study itself talked about recovery strategies, right? And how different people recover post breakup. And it was not only broken up by individual, but it was broken up by age range, it was broken up by gender and all of that, right? And what they came to find was for men in particular, they have a tendency of using more destructive coping mechanisms. So men have a tendency of relying on drugs, alcohol, new relationships, any kind of distraction to move on from the relationship as quickly as possible, right? Really turning on that fight or flight mechanism. And it is because there is men have difficulty processing and coping with certain emotions. And a lot of that has to do with the societal expectations, cultural expectations, the way that we have been brought up to believe that emotions are bad, particularly for men. We're not supposed to cry. We're not supposed to express when we're sad, when we're upset, any of these types of things, right? So there's a lot of emotional repression that happens that does not allow most men to cope in a healthy way. Now, for women, in particular, women have a tendency of really feeling the feels, right? And relying on a support network, leaning on friends. Does not mean that there are not women that also utilize negative coping behaviors, right? Alcohol, drugs, going out, partying, jumping into other relationships. But statistically speaking, men have a tendency of doing that more so than women. So if you are in a situation where you feel like your ex has moved on from the situation incredibly quickly, it's one of two reasons. And this is usually what I've come to find, right? So the first reason is because they were unhappy in the relationship, did not communicate that they were unhappy within the relationship. There was needs and expectations that were not being met or fulfilled, and they internalized, became avoidant, detached emotionally, possibly already grieved the relationship while they were in the relationship. So when they finally decided to step away, the grieving process was not as long because it had already started to happen within the relationship. Or the second option is that they are truly actually hurt and sad about stepping away from the relationship, and therefore they are utilizing negative patterns of behavior to cope with those feelings. And it does not necessarily mean that the person they have jumped into a relationship with is toxic. It's just the decision to jump into another relationship so quickly without taking time and space for themselves to really understand why they were upset, unhappy, maybe didn't communicate the way that they were feeling, is a bit of a toxic trait. It's not the most positive pattern of behavior or characteristic, right? So it is likely that they will repeat the same mistakes in the next relationship because they have not taken the time to reflect on your relationship and the things that went wrong. The second thing here is love versus need, right? It does not necessarily mean that they did not love you, right? Love has different degrees, and people have a certain capacity for love, right? Some people have the capability of loving completely, right? 1000%. They are fully invested, open, vulnerable, communicative, willing to potentially get hurt because they want to experience what love has to offer. And for some people, they may love in their own way, right? So maybe it's through their actions and not necessarily their words, or maybe it's through their words and not their actions. Whatever the case may be, they love to the degree in which they can love. Is that necessarily enough for you? Maybe not. It depends on you as an individual, what it is that you expect and what you need in order to feel happy and fulfilled within a relationship. So it may not necessarily be that they did not love you. It's just they had a different need, or their needs were not being met, or maybe they did not feel super fulfilled within the relationship, and therefore they are seeking something else that they may not even know what they're looking for. But it does not negate the fact or dismiss the fact that there was probably love there. It just was not enough for them to stay in the relationship. And the third thing here is, what do you do? How do you navigate this? How do you manage this? And for me, what I usually recommend with my clients in these types of situations, and if you and I were sitting down and having a conversation, I would probably first recommend a no contact period, right? Going into a 30-day, 40-day, whatever it is you feel you need, no contact period so that you can disconnect from the situation. You are probably stuck in it. You probably feel like you are in limbo because you are still emotionally and mentally invested in this individual. And it's time to separate yourself from that. Work on yourself, work on healing, right? Processing the emotions, understanding that the future that you had envisioned is no longer going to happen. And I know that's harsh. And I sometimes hesitate to say that because I know that you are in a very vulnerable state. But we have to also accept the reality. We have to accept that the relationship is over and that it's time to move on from that specifically, because if you do not, when the opportunity comes back around, if the opportunity comes back around to reconcile and mend the relationship, you have to be able to let go of anything that you were holding onto in the past. Because if you do not, it will be dragged into the new relationship. And the last thing here is, if you finally decide, or if you decide that you want to try to re-attract your ex at some point down the line, even if they've moved on from the relationship and they're in a relationship with somebody else, or maybe they've had a string of failed relationships and you're thinking to yourself, you know what? This is my chance. Utilizing social media is probably one of the best ways that you can reconnect with an ex in a passive way, aside from an accountability letter or just reaching out directly and utilizing the right text in order to do it. So again, it really just depends on where you are in your situation. But at the end of the day, if you are feeling like there was no love whatsoever in the relationship because they have moved on so quickly, I hope that was able to provide you with some insight, right? Some possibilities as to why things may be happening the way that they are, right? A different perspective. If you feel like your situation is very particular, or you still need a little bit more reassurance, more guidance, a little bit more of an understanding as to your situation, I would be more than happy to help you and to support you and to guide you through that process. So to make your life a little bit easier, I will put a link in the description box down below for a one-on-one coaching session. So just go ahead and click on that link if you are feeling like you need that support. Again, we can start to work on this situation immediately. and get you out of this feeling of being stuck or this rut that you are in. The second part of this is we've created so many trainings to help you guys through situations such as this. So if you're trying to move on from this situation, we have a training for that. If you're trying to figure out how to reopen the lines of communication, we have a training for that. So I'll actually, in the description box down below, create some links for some of the trainings that I think would be helpful for you based on this current situation. So you can just go ahead and check those out. Make sure you are leaving your comments if you feel like I may have missed something. If you've been through this before and you applied your own strategy that you felt worked, then let us know. This channel was created for you. This community is for you. So your thoughts, your opinions, your experiences matter. Again, my name is Danny. I'm your life and relationship coach. I hope you're staying happy and healthy. I hope you found this video helpful, and I will see you in the next video.